This dog has gone viral for sitting like a human. Haja! And the silence was deafening. Oh my god. Oh, was the dog stressed or what's up? This one must be going through a lot of stuff. Oh my god. Decided just to sit there and think about his life. You see? Good people of Earth, we should always treat these animals with love and compassion, you see? So that they may not also be stressed. Oh, what do you think happened to this one? Oh, this is crazy. Maybe he's going through a heartbreak or something like that. Look at his face. Oh, good people of Earth. But maybe this is a skinwalker. You see, I've been here seeing stuff here in different videos of skinwalkers and stuff. And now I'm surprised about this dog. Oh. Oh my god, poor dog. What has happened? Oh, you see, he looks like he's thinking about a lot of stuff. See, this is very sad. Ah, look even at how he's walking, my friends. Oh my god, that dog looks stressed.
You wanna debate me? Then you need to listen to me until I finish.
Please.
Sit down. Sit down and listen. Okay. So I speak on experience, much longer experience than your experience combined. Not to reduce you, but have you been to a Sharia school?
No, but I lived.
You haven't. Have you studied the Sharia? Have you studied the Sharia, the 4 major books of legislation? Have you studied them?
Not fully in depth, but I understand Sharia. I've studied Sharia, yes.
So name the 4 main sources of Islam. Why you cannot do it? You said that you studied it.
When you have Sharia, you're talking about Sharia jurisprudence. You have.
I need the sources. There are 4 main sources of Islam all Muslims agree on. What are the 4 sources?
You have Sunnah, you have Hadith, right? You have Quran, right?
That's not it. That's not it. You forgot Qiyas and Ijma'. So please sit down and listen. Please sit down and listen. I don't have phobia of Islam. I was born in Islam. You cannot tell a cub that they have a phobia of cats. Because this is their environment. You know, you tell somebody who never been to the situation Islamophobic. But I, as a son of the religion, I don't have a phobia. I have the right to rebel. I have the birthright to rebel. I tell you something. I don't mind speaking to him after the event if this is what he wants, okay? And I don't mind actually debating someone. But the thing is, when you accuse someone, you must support. You know, you accuse me of Islamophobia. This is a big accusation. How can be Islamophobic if this is my natural environment? You know, you cannot tell a fish that a fish is afraid of water.
Well,
you know,
why don't you have the
nonsense.
last word?
Let me just respond very quickly. I don't believe that Islamophobia is a helpful word, right? I think bigotry towards Muslims may be a better one, right? But I'm just using the word that most people understand. When I say that, people know what I'm talking about, right? That's all I'm saying. But we can have this conversation. I wouldn't dwell over the semantics right now, but we could have this conversation more in depth.
Okay, but also you need to understand.
Thank you. And I think Mr. Yusuf is saying he is not a bigot.
If it was a different function, okay, and I can talk Islam with you all day long, I have no fear, I have no problem of discussing religion, criticizing religion. It's our freedom in this country. You know, people criticize Christianity, criticize Judaism, they make fun of the gods. Why cannot I make the fun of the gods, you know, that I was brought up? But anyway, this is not the right place. Look, I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to be offensive to anybody, but thank you for bringing the topic. We were focusing on Gaza. You tell me that you're from Sudan. You're about like 2,000 miles away. Have you ever been to Palestine or to Israel? You've never been there. So you shake your head when I said the black situation in the territories in denial, but you've never been there.
You should always be honest and
This is a dandelion
forgiving.
flower. You see the multi-inflorescence here underneath the calyx. This stem is long, but it's hollow. There's only one flower. See up close? Look at the leaves, all right? Look at these long-toothed leaves, okay? And if you break off a leaf or if you pick this flower, there's a white milky latex that comes out. This is cat's ear. This is not a dandelion. This is, now look at this whole plant. This is much taller than the dandelion, okay? These long, thin stems are much higher. There's also a lot of these little flowers coming up out of this plant, okay? See that? Those little flowers, and also look at the stem. It's got multiple flowers coming off of it. It's got these little other bracts coming off. That's definitely, look underneath. So the flower does look similar, but look at the leaves down here. They're fuzzy and furry. I mean, yeah, the shape is kind of similar, but these are fuzzy with little dots all over them. But look at the multiple flowers. Now I just picked one, and you can see the milky white latex coming out, but you can see also that this stem isn't really hollow. It's a little bit maybe, but it's also kind of hard. Let's go back to the dandelion. I'm sorry, dandelion. I'm gonna pick you my one dandelion with the cat's ear. Dandelion. Let's pick this one dandelion, all right? I'm sorry, Mr. Dandelion. You see how that's very wide and hollow? This is the dandelion. Look at the two stems. On the right is dandelion. The left is cat's ear. I'm trying to get it to focus. There we go. You see those bracts coming off the cat's ear stem? And the dandelion stem is completely straight and smooth. And the tips are, they're similar. I get it, they're similar. These flowers are in the same family. They're the Asteraceae family. So I just wanted to make sure you knew, when you see all these little, this is a big pile of cat's ear, you look down and the furry leaves and the furry stems, cat's ear or hawkweed also they're very, very similar. Okay, they're all in the Asteraceae family. None of these are toxic. None of these are going to hurt you. But a dandelion tastes pretty good, and cat's ear flower does not. I'm going to take one for the team and eat a cat's ear flower just so that I can tell you. It's not toxic, don't worry. Well, the smell is not good. I mean, it's not terrible, but the smell, like, when you bite it, you get this weird smell. This is the dandelion, okay? I'm gonna swallow that. That's much nicer. The dandelion's sweet, and then bitter, but then sweet again. Yeah, I much prefer the dandelion.
Yo, so I had a previous video about the sun that got over 200,000 views, but I had to remove it because this app refused to monetize it on a bogus claim. So I'm making a brand new one, and look at the orb. Look at it out the orb around the sun. Pause it and zoom in if you can, because you can see it looks like a dandelion, like the ones you make the wish on. Okay, it is wild. And look at the little rainbow in the bottom. You see that? You see? Oh my God. Look at the rainbow. Look at that. Gee. Is that how that happens? In something curved and glass-like? Yo, if this doesn't help you out, I don't know how to help you. I'm sorry. Look at the reflection, you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm getting so many cool things right now. This is literally insane. Yo, look at this. Look at this. And for all you people wanting to see it without the glass ball, and for all the people who are saying, oh, that's just pixels. That's how pixels work. No, it's not. A picture or a video gets pixelated when it is too dark. The dark aspects, like the clouds, those are pixelated. You get pixelation or noise when something is not getting off enough light. What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments.
Obviously there are different Bibles. One has like 73 books and the other one has 66, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, now, good question. Notice that the books that have 73 books and those have 66. They still have 66 books in common, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same 66 books in the Protestant Bible you'll find in the Catholic Orthodox Bible. So they have the same, so they all agree, these 66 books. Now those quote unquote extra books were part of all Bibles until the 19th century. This is a fact of history. When the Bibles were being translated from Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek, right, into English, let's say, or German, the Bibles all had those extra books, what's called the Deuterocanonicals or Apocrypha. They were in all the Bibles. Even Martin Luther was a Protestant who opposed the Catholic Church. He included. Now, they didn't all believe that these books were inspired on the level of the rest of the books, but they included them because many in Christian history did accept them as inspired. When were they removed? In the 19th century. In the 1830s, Protestant groups started publishing Bibles without those extra books because it was cheaper to produce Bibles without those extra books. But until the 1830s, this is a fact, even the King James Version, until 1880s, had those books. So all the Bibles that were being translated in English or German, they all had 73 books until the 19th century when Protestants stopped publishing them because it would be cheaper to publish Bibles without them. And that was their error and their mistake.
Oh, okay. So, okay. And my other question really quickly was about, okay, no, I wanted to elaborate more. So you're saying that the reason that why there's less books is because they didn't want to print?
Yeah, in the 19th century, they didn't want to, because they didn't view, some Protestants didn't view these books as having the same authority as the 66. So they said, okay, well, since we don't accept them as having the same authority as the 66 books, well, why translate them? Why not just omit them and make it more efficient? Because it'd be cheaper to produce Bibles. But again, don't take my word for it. Until the 19th century, 1800s, all the Bibles had 73 books.
Okay. And so you believe that the Bible is the Word of God, even though it was written by the disciples of,
Sure.
even like some of them weren't even disciples, but
They don't need to be. You don't need to be a disciple to write accurate eyewitness testimony, because you can have people who meet the disciples and interview them.
Okay, got you. So so I remember because in a metro station, actually that's the way I knew you. One time I was walking near the metro, well, subway you guys call it, and I saw a group of Christians and they actually talked to me about you. So
poor guys.
my question would be, so from what they told me that the disciples wrote the book and that God accepted it. Is that what you guys believe?
No, they didn't represent it accurately. What it was is the Spirit moved these men to write down what God wanted to be written down using human language. Because remember, God can stoop to our level and speak on our level, but we can't speak on God's level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what God did was he moved some of the apostles and their followers to write down the words that God wanted to be written down in human language. That's why when Luke writes, his style is different from Paul, because God has deliberately chosen different human personalities to write down what the Spirit wants them to write down using their own personalities and expression, because God wants to communicate to humans on their level.
I'm sorry, I saw someone in the chat say that the Church of the East has 80 books. Is that
No,
81?
they don't turn that one. Now, the Church of the East does it. It's not about the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Their 81 books is because they're including other books that are called ecclesiastical, meaning they're not considered inspired, but they are reading nonetheless. For example, they'll include Clement of Rome, or they'll include the Didaskalia or the Book of Enoch. So again, the person, he meant to say the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and they have, for example, Clement of Rome. Why Clement of Rome? Because that's an early writing from a disciple of the apostles who became the Bishop of Rome, who wrote a letter to the Corinthians because they had ousted their elders. And so they include that because it's an important document, but it doesn't mean they hold it on the same level as the other books. And this is where people need to be careful what they say.
Okay, I just want to go, because I know other people want to ask questions.
No, that's
My last two, really quickly. The first one would be the oldest manuscript that we have is in in Greek. Do we
Yes.
have proof that Jesus spoke Greek?
Even if he didn't speak Greek. We do, but put that aside. Why would you assume that if God wants to communicate the message of Christ to all peoples at that time, that it has to be in Aramaic? Because understand what I'm saying. At the time of Christ, the language that everyone had to speak to understand each other was Greek, like English today. If I'm Assyrian, you're Arab, and this man is Indian, and that person is African, how do we communicate today?
English.
At that time was Greek. The Greek language was the lingua franca, meaning this was the language everyone had to speak to understand each other. So if God wants the message of Christ to be understood by all peoples, what language would he have it written in?
I guess Greek.
So then why would he have it in Aramaic when only a segment of the world?
Okay, I guess you're right. So,
but now when a Muslim, not you, when a Muslim asks me that, I say, now we're being inconsistent again. Why? Think it with me. When a Muslim asks me that, so that's the reason. I say, when I read the Quran, you quote Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, you quote all these prophets, right? You quote Jesus, you quote his disciples, Jesus' mother, John the Baptist. But what language does the Quran have them speaking?
Arabic.
But none of them spoke Arabic. So
yeah, but it translates what they said.
So Allah can translate their words in Arabic, but he can't do it for Greek?
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, see, that's the point.
So this might be the weirdest of all the weird stuff in the desert. We pulled off at a rest area for the night, but it's not just any rest area. This is the Marfa Lights viewing area, and it was specifically built here so that you can see the Marfa lights. These mystery lights have been appearing in the desert for more than 100 years. And people say they appear pretty regularly, so we're going to wait till it gets dark and see if we can see them. All right, it's starting to get dark. Everybody's lining up on the viewing platform. So it's full dark now. We're going to go out and see what we can see. So I can't believe it's actually that easy. We walked to the viewing platform and the lights are just like out there. But they come and go and they're not like moving across in a linear fashion either. Oh, and they just winked out. Okay, do you see that? What is that? What is that? Are you looking at the screen? Did you see that? Here it is again. Yeah, oh, okay, now you can see. It looks like something burning.
You know what it reminds me of? Flaring.
Kind of like when they burn off the gas on the gas wells sometimes.
Oh, my friends, how can you explain that? Yeah, look at this. Oh, Is this a rabbit that... What has happened to Kasungumo? Wait. Oh my god. Kasungumo that looks like a cat. It's like a cat and a bunny did that thing, my friends. Or was it by influence of humans? Oh my god, this is unbelievable.
I've been rabbit holing again. The other day I made a video about how our calendar actually used to have 13 months, each month having 28 days. But then in, I think it was 1583, the Pope put forth the Gregorian calendar. And I learned some new things, some more information about this today. And I'm a little unwell at how this is tying together, but I'm gonna share it. I'm gonna share a couple clips in this video from other videos that I have watched on this topic, and then I'm going to tie them together for you. Okay. But first, did you even know that you could go back in your calendar on your phone to the year 1582, and you can see that they erased, they deleted, they just got rid of 2 weeks of time. Okay, so keep that in mind, because what I'm about to show you is all going to make sense in the end, I promise. So stick with me. So this first clip is a creator who is talking about how much time we've lost overall since the change of the calendar. And okay, just watch this first clip.
Living in it at once. But then I saw this comment. So if we're in 2014, according to your calendar, 2020 Gregorian calendar corresponds to 2012 your calendar when the truth started to come out and people woke. So the Mayans were right. COVID really put everyone in 2020. Using your calendar, that means that the year 2012 was the end of the world. Mind blown. Okay, so of course I had to look up when our calendar started. It was in 1582. Ethiopian calendar started around AD 400. So they are obviously way more correct than we are. How many years did we lose switching to the Gregorian calendar? 8 years. We're lost in translation when the switch to the Gregorian calendar was made to the 15th century. And if you guys remember, the Mayan calendar says that the end of the world would be on December 21st, 2012. And even according to the Julian calendar, that would be on January 21st, 2020, when COVID was at its peak. So I'm freaking out in the middle of the night, and I message my dear friend JK Ultra Jen. If you guys aren't following her, please go follow her, who's super into all this stuff. And I was like, girl, I'm sure you know this, but did you know this? And her and I are both freaking out because we didn't know this. So she goes and converts what day is December 21st, 2012 in the Ethiopian calendar. What does it calculate to us? December 31st, 2019. So the last day of the world, according to the Mayan calendar, was on December 21st, 2012, if we had kept up with the original calendar. But because we switched it, it was December 31st, 2019. So in 2020, the new world started. So we have already shifted into a new dimension. And this is why everything is so different. This makes so much sense. Are you guys freaking out? Because I'm freaking out.
Okay, now this next clip is from a video on Rumble, a interview with Carrie Cassidy, and she is interviewing a whistleblower who worked for the CIA, who was charged with finding an alternate option to the one and only option that the elites, actually the deletes. Side note, on my full moon video, one of my followers commented that she calls them the deletes instead of the elites, and I think we need to make that a thing. Okay, so he talks about how he got hired by the deletes to come up with an alternative outcome to our future timeline, because they were conducting Project Looking Glass and they were using all these looking glass, these supercomputers, as well as something called the yellow cube or the yellow book, to predict the future. And then they were looking at all the possible scenarios and timelines and then picking the one that was the most successful for them and following those steps. But then it all came to a halt because all these looking glass is at one point decided there was only one possible outcome left, and they were all saying the same thing. So this guy was hired to try and find a loophole, to find any other alternative to what these were telling them, the one outcome, the only possible outcome that could happen. Okay, so now with all of that, watch this clip.
People, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret.
Okay, so is that certain 2012 in your understanding?
It well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
timelines. All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history to you? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question. That is the big secret. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic. The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game. I mean, nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
So do you think that's held true? In other words, well, I have about 60 questions, but do you think that's true, or holding true, that nothing could be manipulated, that they haven't found a way to manipulate, that that's still the case, it's still an end game, it's still, they cannot go beyond a certain point?
At a certain point, after they're done hearing the computer tell them, this is what's going to happen, over and over and over and over again, all they become focused on is, how do we fix it?
Why? What is this that's going to happen?
The inevitable contraction of the timelines.
But what does that mean for this reality? Do you know that?
I don't know that. What I do know is that I was called in and asked to solve this problem, this timeline contraction problem. And I eventually did my due diligence and did all the investigating and basically only had one piece of information, and that was reinforcement. The computer's right. The timelines will contract down to some inevitable thing that you guys won't tell me about, so I can't help you.
But what you're basically, you came back with was, it is inevitable.
There is an inevitable event. It's been forecast, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us in a slop trough of what they want us to believe will happen.
But they don't.
However, they don't actually have control over what happens. They only have control over the reaction, and it seems that no matter what they tried to do to cause their desired reaction, it's going to have an opposite effect.
Interesting.
Now, it's much, much easier for me to explain today what that process is as opposed to back then. But if I had to give it a name, I would say it's the awakening process. It's an evolution of consciousness that cannot, will not, and no matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, eventually it all resolves down to us all learning the truth and becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built that keep us from knowing massive volume of information that we should otherwise possess.
Okay, well that's very, very monumental to be told that from a person in your perspective, who's had your background and your exposure.
So now we know. The Great Awakening is happening. It is inevitable. I mean, we've always known, but this is amazing confirmation. But more importantly, with the calendar and with the date of December 21st, 2012, lines up to December 31st, 2019, New Year's Eve, the day before 2020, the day before everything changed, the day the plan was unfolded to try with every desperation they could muster to hold on to their control. This even more confirms with this eclipse coming on Monday that we have to be ready for battle. And that means being in our highest vibration. I made a whole video about this the other day and I pinned it at the top of my profile. So if you haven't seen that, please watch it. Okay, let's go.
What if the key to life is understanding that you are God and God is love and we are essentially everything that is breathing in this universe? We are all mirrors of one another. This is old knowledge, but I'm going to take it a step further and say that nothing is outside of you. So what I learned is the beauty of self-concept. How I see myself is exactly what's happening in my day at all times. Now, the fake gurus on this fucking app will tell you that you can manifest $1 million tomorrow and this is about dying while still alive, giving yourself permission to be reborn into the version of yourself that is thinking on purpose. Now, thinking on purpose is a phrase that I learned from Kay Deanne. I think that's her name. I love her videos. But this isn't about manifesting material possessions or wealth. It's about walking as a version of you that's authentic, a version of you that accepts yourself no matter what, and a version of you that knows that you are creation that chose to come to this 3D to essentially go back to love, but in the physical. In other words, we're meant to experience heaven on earth. And that's the key to life, is understanding that it's your divine birthright to be happy, to have joy, to be safe, and to be comfortable with who you are. So I say all that to say, please come into yourself. Please be authentic. The world is thirsty for it. There's nobody like you. There's something you could do that I can't even fucking fathom. And that's perfect, and that's meant to be shared. The world is literally dying to see you because I'm dying to see you, and I am the world. Good luck.
Wonderful, so thank you very much for watching up to this far. A lot of interesting and mind-blowing videos today, my friends. All that for entertainment purposes, for you to be entertained and feel nice when spreading love. You see, I have been Y311H here from Africa. And you tell us where you have been watching from. You see? Till next time, I wish you love, good vibes. Bye bye. Peace.